Okay, well, my goodness, hello everyone. I always like to say good morning because I'm in San Francisco, but for a lot of you folks, like our speakers today, we're in Minnesota, we're in New York, we're all over the map, so it's different times of day. But I'm seeing those numbers rise, and I'm so excited to have all of you join us. I don't want to take up too much time blabbing on, but I'm Carrie Scott. I work at Spruce Health. Many of you joining this call probably know me because I host these every month. But this webinar is also co-hosted by Herd Financial, which is very exciting. I'm going to let Robbie say a few words after I finish, and then we're going to turn it over to our guest speaker today, Miss Shauna Allen, who is just such a gift to join us. We're going to be talking about navigating the future of therapy with AI, in case you all have forgotten why we're here today. So it's really that intersection of human connection and technological innovation. And we're going to dive deep. We're even going to get a little demo of how it all works. So stay tuned for that. Get excited for some great content. And please do ask questions as they come up for you. We encourage you to drop them into the Q&A. We will be fielding them as we go if it's relevant to the slide we're on. Otherwise, we'll also save time at the end. When Shauna has a question for the audience, please feel free to drop your answers into chat. That'll be the easiest way for her to see those answers. Also know that this session is being recorded. So if for some reason you miss something or you want to return to something later on, you can, because I will send the link to the recording after we wrap today. So with that, let's get going. On the second slide here, just a real quick about Spruce. I think most of you here today know about Spruce. But in a nutshell, it is a medical communication platform that enables you to navigate your phone system with texting and faxing and telemedicine all in one place. It is HIPAA grade and cloud-based, which makes it a really unique situation for anyone who's in office or remote, great for cross-team collaboration and solo providers alike. That's it. If you want to learn more, I encourage you to check out the website later on. I'm going to let Robbie say a few words about Herd, and then we will let Miss Shauna introduce herself because she is the best person to do that. Robbie?
Thank you, Carrie. So welcome everyone. I'm Robbie and I work at Herd. I'm also an LMFT therapist in private practice. Just in case you're not familiar with Herd, we are a financial platform built for therapists and wellness practitioners. And if you are more interested in learning more, you can check out our website as well. We'd be happy to work with you and partner well with Spruce as well. So with that, I'll hand it over to Shauna to introduce herself.
So hey everyone, my name is Shauna A. It's Shauna Allen, but I go by Shauna A. I've been a clinician of 12 years. I also have a full-time private practice. That's all that I do. And I am a clinician who is quite creative. So while I love my clients and I love what I do as a clinician, I also spend a lot of time building courses and programs for clinicians and clients alike. But the courses and programs that I've been focusing on a lot lately are designed to help clinicians scale their practices beyond the couch, so to speak. So really bringing innovation to the work that we do so that we are adjusting to our times as they change and become different. We are in a bit of a technological boom at this point in time, and we have been for a while. Um, and while therapy is a young field in comparison to um, other fields out there, I think that we are a little slow to to change to the different times and how things are happening. So I like to provide education for other clinicians so that we can make small adjustments. We can bring our practices different advances that are a help to our clients. It helps us with our administrative duties and things like that. I really like helping people focus on building sustainable careers because I see it every day. There's always clinicians who are like, what do I do with this? Or what if I don't want to provide therapy anymore? Or what if I feel burned out and tired? So I really like to be able to answer that by showing us how we can expand beyond what we already know how to do so well. So today we are talking about AI, really, and like the use of AI and how that can work. And we're going to talk about it starting off with generative AI, but we're going to go a little bit advanced about that. So, in the chat, why don't we all start off with like anybody who is using AI in their practice? This could be using a note system, it could be through like making your own worksheets, it could even be things like drafting emails or text messages or things like that. And while you're answering that, I want to start off by talking about Dorothy Vaughan. So, Dorothy Vaughan is, or she was, someone who worked for NASA. She worked for NASA in the 1950s, and she was there when all of the math was done by hand. Um, Her and the other women that were there, they were considered human computers. If you're familiar with this name, Dorothy Vaughan is one of the women who was featured in the movie Hidden Figures. So her job was really about putting together the math that helped to make putting people in space possible. But during her time there, she also saw the introduction to computers and not the computers that we are familiar with today, but we're talking about like the big machines that needed their own space, their own rooms to run. And what she saw was that those computers were going to take over some of the work that she already did. In thinking about this, it really made me think about us today and how often I see people say that, oh, AI is going to take over our work, or it's that we're using AI and we're teaching it and it's going to replace us. And I think about what those women might have thought of when they saw these big computers coming in and knowing that it can do something very similar to what they can do and probably faster and quicker. So, what she did was she learned the language system of those computers, and she later taught her entire team how to manage those computers. So, she learned the system and she taught everybody else how to do it, and it made her indispensable to the program. So, this is about learning this, adjusting to it as needed. We don't have to fully engulf in it if we don't want to, but making ourselves in collaboration with the programs or with the things that are available out there so that we can continue to do the work that we do and expand and scale our impact. Our story isn't about machines replacing humans, it's really about humans adapting and leading alongside the technology. I think our NASA moment is coming, or I think it's kind of arrived for us here in the state of mental health. There are several crises that are happening all at once. We all know that we are in a current mental health crisis where there are more demand than there is providers available to provide mental health care. So there are a severe therapist shortages nationwide. There are wait lists that are stretching months. A year ago, I wanted to get my little one in for some therapy services, and the wait list we were told was 9 months to get her in to see a therapist. 9 months is a very long time. It's enough time for someone to get on a wait list and then just give up. And not only that, we as clinicians are seeing higher caseloads than we have before for a multitude of reasons, right? We're trying to keep up with productivity the best that we can, but we're also trying to do the best that we can to help provide the services that are needed out there. We also kind of recognize that there is a lot of stress on the people that are coming in. Most of the time, when people are coming into services, they might be in a place where they're already in crisis. And that you're starting from a higher level when someone is already in crisis or someone is already pretty much in a mental health state, versus someone who's trying to engage in services for preventative care. This also puts back more admin burden onto us. Higher caseload means more notes, more documentation. More documentation also means less time in other things. So if you're writing out notes, it may take somebody a little bit longer to fully write out their notes than it does if they were utilizing an AI system to help with their documentation. But even more than that, there is also complexities when it comes to billing. And might not just be in insurance, it might be in different things that we're doing, whether we're using sliding scales or those kinds of things. That also adds to our administrative burden. Some of us use different kinds of documentation systems, whether we are doing evaluations or we have like a special program that we're using. That also adds into the admin time. I'm someone within my practice who often provides work for like short-term disability or accommodation paperwork, and that also eats into my admin time during my day because I have to kind of follow up on that. I have to send that paperwork off and those kinds of things. So that adds into what we're already doing outside of seeing our clients. And then the people that are coming in, because they too are also used to a world where technology is right there at their fingertips. If we're spending a lot of time on social media and different applications, they too want to see that convenience and accessibility. A lot of the programs out there are now toting something that you can get access 24/7, right? They can wake up in the middle of the night and they can open up their meditation app if they wanted to, or a lot of different apps at that. And then there's the traditional model that hasn't grown the same with the times that we are currently in. So we kind of know that changes amongst us, whether we like it or not, or whether we were ready for it or not. The big thing is thinking about how do we want to respond in this and how do we want to engage in these programs. So the thing about AI, what seems to be the promise is that there's more efficiency, right? So we can do things with AI like automatically schedule. We can also create integrations that help us bill faster or automatically, document, reclaim the hours for client care. It also helps us expand accessibility because there's real-time translation. We can add in support tools and we can add in scaling through psychoeducation, through different kinds of worksheets or things like that. And it does help us amplify our creativity because you can, in a matter of minutes, generate worksheets, meditations, content, new service models that we can provide faster than we did if we're just doing it by hand. But there also are some pitfalls when it comes to AI. One of the biggest things that people mention when it comes to AI is that these massive data centers require a lot of energy and water. So it has a huge environmental cost on our environment. Um, some worry about the sustainability of this because the more that we use this, the bigger that these centers get. And this is something that is relatively new to us. There's job anxiety, right? Will AI replace therapists? I believe the answer to that is no. But there is a lot of fear about how this works, especially when we see the introduction of very big companies coming in and doing lots of different things in our field, in our industry. There's also some questions around liability, right? When someone is using AI, who's responsible for that? There is no AI is not a licensed clinician, right? And so if something were to happen when someone is using AI, there's questions about who is responsible for that harm that's caused to that person. And there's also the idea that the more engagement that people have in technology, it can enhance a gap in connection. I don't think that AI is meant to replace our human connections. I think that's still very important. That's who we are as humans. We are built to be social creatures, and so naturally we do need to connect with other people. But there are some who do like to utilize AI in a way that means that they don't have to connect with people. And then, of course, we have to take into consideration the HIPAA compliance of certain systems that we're using. So there are, when it comes to building with AI and utilizing AI, the thing that I say is that we still have to recognize that we are clinicians and it is our job to protect um, and be ethical when we're utilizing these systems. So we don't want to utilize a system where we're going to be putting in protected health information or our HIPAA compliant information. Um, we do, however, can utilize those systems in ways that kind of help us take away some of the tasks that we are doing. So I love AI for integration. I love AI for formulating outlines that I make. Like if I write something or if I have a thought, even if I dictate something into my notes app, I can always take that and put it into a generative AI and create content out of that or something like that. And that would be so much faster for me than if I was like, okay, I'm going to write out the outline, then I'm going to bring it to Canva or do XYZ. So I like it for things like that. I would not use it for things like, oh, I have to formulate a note unless I'm using the note system that's like within my EHR, which is what I do. So I think we have to be like mindful about where we're utilizing, what we're utilizing things for and how we're utilizing it, and knowing where it would fit best in the work that you do. Practical applications as AI as your partner. So before, like I said, we don't want to use it as a replacement. We kind of want to use it as a partnership, or sometimes I would say like let that be your VA. So you can do things like use it on the back end, help automate scheduling, billing, insurance verification, session notes, or even set up the reminders to do all of the things that you would want to do that way. It's great for content creation, like generating workbooks, guided meditations, psychoeducational materials in a matter of minutes. I'm going to show you in a moment how you can do this in a way that would match and align what you already know and what you already do. I think sometimes when we utilize AI or when we think about AI, we think that we're just getting it to spit out anything. And really, you kind of have to, one, train it. And two, you kind of have to tell it what direction you want it to go. So it's not like, write me this blog, although some people do use it. It's more like, you know my audience, you know the things that I'm really focused on based on what I put in here. Let's work on this particular thing. I want to do XYZ. I already have this particular idea. This is the direction that I want to go. So you're using it really to create something that's more customized and more aligned with what you would typically say or what you would typically do. And then there are client support tools like journal prompts, symptom tracking, reflection exercises between sessions. So I've actually done some journal prompts before. I've even shown some clients how they can create their own journal prompts too, utilizing it as a tool in support of therapy. So they were already in therapy, they were looking for ways to kind of journal a little bit more, but they wanted something that would prompt them. So we walked through that together to create a um a, a bunch of journal prompts that they could utilize. And then when they came back into services, we kind of went through each of those prompts as they came up to process further. So it can really be like an assistant to the work that you're already doing, enhancing that service a little bit more. And then it can help you scale your impact through different apps and courses. So one app that I'm currently working on is actually creating a app for the consultation work that I do, where what I will do is kind of like gather all of my pieces of information just so that there's an easier way for people to get access to it. So it like kind of works like an app. They would open it up and then they have everything that I have put together, organized and ready to go. And it's just from me kind of setting up a spreadsheet and then giving it to the AI system. So we're going to take the time. I'm going to demonstrate how you can set up your GPT with a prompt. This is also a really good time if anybody has any questions to go ahead and ask, and we are going to take it from there. So I'm going to stop my share for a quick moment so I can show you how I would set up my chat GPT to kind of help move through different projects that I am interested in. Do, do, do. Oh, there is a whole conversation going on over here in the chat.
I know, I was just going to say, so folks, this will be available for replay later. Do not worry. I'll send the link out after we wrap. But do take this time to ask Shauna your questions in the Q&A. That's the beauty of having a live event is that we have her here to answer them, and later you won't have that. So if you think of something, don't be shy, drop it into Q&A.
Okay, so while we're over here, I am gonna go over to, I do like to use ChatGPT um, for things like when I have questions. So or not necessarily questions. If I'm like fathoming how do I want to set up a particular piece of content, I'm going to use ChatGPT for that. I also really enjoy Descript. If I was editing videos that I make, I've been using Descript for that lately. Not too long ago, I created a podcast. It was very specific for a summit that I did, and I recorded the podcast and uploaded each piece into Descript, and I was able to edit it just by like reading like how it transcribed it, which was really cool. I see a lot of people here are using AI for session notes and treatment planning, which is really cool. Shannon, I also utilize Simple Practices note taker, and I love it. One of my favorite things about it is that I'm able to actually dictate notes. So when I have people who are not interested in recording like recording their session for it, I can just go ahead and voice it and it turns it into the note anyway, which is really cool. Um,
Shauna, do you want to take a couple of questions or should I hold them?
I would love to take a couple of questions. That would be great.
Okay, great. So Nicole asked, is it ethical to use Chat GPT by sending a prompt like provide a treatment plan for a woman with CPTSD and history of betrayal, no identifying info given?
I think that that is ooh, you're gonna get a lot of different responses from that. Um, there's no information given, and I don't think that that is necessarily like a bad thing. I think like a lot of people were using Chat GPT in that way. I would prefer not to, though. I would prefer to keep everything inside of my EHR that I can. Um, but I will say that sounds very much like what I would do if I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm really struggling to formulate how I would put this particular modality with what's going on here, or someone's really stuck and I can't see my way through. So I'm like, okay, help me work through this particular thing. I'm not even utilizing like diagnosis or anything like that. I'm really just saying like, um, we can't get past, oh, we're using CBT and I can't get past thought stopping. We need help with thought stopping. So I might ask it something really basic like that, and that is fine. I just am very mindful about ChatGPT right now when it comes to like clinical stuff like that. But I do know of some people who do it. So I don't think it's terrible. It's just not my preferred method when it comes to asking about treatment planning and things like that. The EHRs that do have AI in it, like particularly with the note taker, it you can do treatment planning utilizing AI. I can do my intake note. I can also do session notes based on how I typically do session notes. So, like my session note is a SOAP format that is formulated to what the insurance company is asking. So every time that I record a note utilizing the note taker, whether it's in session or if it's dictated, it gives me back that same format each and every time. And then the big thing is I think that sometimes when we're getting back stuff from AI, we still have to recognize that sometimes that information in there is not necessarily the truth or not necessarily um correct. So you have to like make sure that you're gonna go back in and like really double check and make sure that it's giving you the correct information. Which is another reason why I'm a little weary about Chat GPT sometimes.
That's awesome. Do you want to take one more question or should we have you show us that example?
Um, let's do one more question.
Okay. So this is sort of on the heels of that other one. So how can we be sure that ChatGPT or another therapist AI system is not keeping recordings or even making recordings of what we're inputting?
Repeat the question again.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
I think if I'm understanding it, and because I think even where I work, there is this fear too, is you wonder like, okay, is Big Brother, is someone logging all this data somewhere? Am I being, monitored? It's how can we be sure that these AI systems aren't actually like logging every little bit of content and question that we ask of it?
Yeah. So what we know about these systems is they all have terms and agreement. So as far as what I know, I'm going to go based off of the terms and agreement. I don't know we could ever really be sure. It's kind of like what happens when we kind of put our email into something and the organization will say that it's not going to do that. And then something comes out later that it's different. Um, which is another reason why I try not to put any clinical information into ChatGPT because it's still something that's new and it's still something that's developing. One of the big things that I noticed, like I'm on social media a lot. A couple of weeks ago, there was like a whole big thing where someone had came out and they expressed that they were falling in love with their provider. And then they also expressed that they were using generative AI as a therapist. I followed along, I didn't mention anything about it or make any commentary on it, but they had posted a video of them engaging with their application. And it was really interesting because one of the things that I caught that I didn't really see anybody talk about was how the application kind of let itself off of liability. So they were like, is the therapy app controlling me? And it was like, no, you're making all the decisions and all the choices. I'm just here as a guide. I'm just here sitting back. This is all on you. And when I heard that and I saw that, I was kind of like, oh. Like a lot of how it seems to me a lot of how much of this is being formulated is that these organizations are presented as technology. And technology functions very different than therapy. And it's up to us, the users, of how we're using these different applications is recognizing that it's technology first. Um, and if it's technology first, it's meant to be a tool. It's not meant to be a replacement. So where I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know what might come up, but what I do know is that the when I use my electronic health record, that information is already there. So I feel comfortable utilizing my electronic health record because that's where I would put that information anyway. For it to be secretly logged or utilized in a way that it's not supposed to be, I feel like that would be a gross violation of what it's supposed to be doing anyway. And that like if I can't trust my electronic health record, where else would I put that kind of information? So a lot of what I do when it comes to these apps is like, does it make sense the way that I'm using this and why I'm using this the way that I'm using this? Is that what the function of this is, or is there something else that I could be utilizing that makes more sense as far as the function is concerned? I hope that makes sense.
I think that was great. Thank you. We'll let you get back to your show and then we'll answer more questions as we go.
Okay, so let's start off. I am going to show you ChatGPT, and I'm going to show it to you in a way that you can use it to set up your own um, your own chat experience. So a lot of the ways that I use ChatGPT, you can see it over here. I use it in a project. And so Like over here in this corner, you'll see like Delightful Counseling Services, which is my private practice. And in ways I use it that way to build social media. So like here you see the social media content, those kinds of things. I'll also use it like if I want to create a worksheet, it's gonna go in my project over here. So we are going to, and do not worry. I do have a way for you to get access to the outline that kind of covers what we talked about today, and also some prompts for you to give a try as well. So we are going to go over to the prompt that I share with anybody that I'm consulting with anytime we want to utilize AI. And this is just to set up the chat GPT so that it's more personal to the work that you're doing. So if you would, I, oh boy,
It's just one tab over.
I know it will not. The little bar, it comes down sometimes and it won't go back up. And
Oh, I hate when that happens.
up. I wonder if I press exit. No. Okay, let me stop share and I'll do it again. I apologize about that. Okay. So we are going to use the prompt. In a minute, I will ask for help writing copy, content, and marketing materials for my business. But before I do, I want you to ask me 10 to 20 questions one by one to get better, to know my audience better and brand. So when we do these prompts, the more specific you are, the better the response is. So you kind of have to be really intentional when you are giving it a prompt. Otherwise, it'll give you a little bit more generic information. Um, so I'll say one by one. I'm going to ask again each question really. So it's going to take a minute and then it's going to ask each question. I've learned that you can actually also formulate it to change the way that it responds to you. So I tend to say perfect a lot. So it's only, and I use this often, it's only really mirroring back to me responses that I've given to it. So this first question, who are you primarily speaking to in this next round of copy and content, therapists, clients, or another audience segment? I'm going to say clients. Um, This would typically take a good bit of time, so I'm just only going to show you some of it so that you can see what a setup would this look like, and then we'll talk about what you would do next with it. When you say client, are you referring to individuals seeking therapy with you, for example, perinatal fertility or emotional healing clients, or coaching clients seeking personal growth or business guidance? So another thing with this is that when you utilize this particular generative AI enough, it gets to know you by other chats that you have. So my other chats, like I've said, I have stuff for when I'm talking about the work that I do. My private practice is a specialty practice, so I see people within the spectrum of perinatal mental health and infertility. Um, and I also work with people who are healing emotional wounds from childhood. So it's asking me this based off of things that I've already put back in here. We're gonna say, and as you can see, it would go on. So it's going to ask me at least 10 of these questions, and I don't want to take up too much of our time around this. Um, but the reason why I do this first is because when I put into this, I want it to give me back. I don't want to filter around and be like, no, actually, my niche audience is this, or no, actually, this is important. But when you're doing this for like content or anything that would be client facing, you also have to go back and tell AI to not do certain things. So like oftentimes when I'm trying to create a campaign, like I'm trying to create social media, and I want to do these particular things. Like I want to like show off my authority, or I want to ask different things of the audience. Sometimes it will say things like share a client testimonial, and I'm like, nope, can't do that. So sometimes I have to go back and say, hey, it's unethical for me as a clinician to solicit this information. How else can I do this without doing this? So I like it in the way of being a sounding board as well, so that I am staying on track with what I'm trying to do, as well as I'm staying within the ethical code as well. So once I've done this, it would allow for me to do things like, I'm going to fast forward. You don't fast forward, but I'm fast forward. um, Someone in the chat put in a question that you would like not a question, but any issues that you're having that takes up a lot of time that you would rather not do. So that could be like, I don't really feel like making content, but I know that content is important. Something like that. Go ahead and put that in the chat and we'll actually work through that right now. Um, I'm going to fast forward and I'm going to look at my chat to see what you all come up with. Do, do, do. Um, Oh, thank you, Carrie. Yes. So this is actually a good one. My slides were created through Gamma. Weston, that's a good question. I can answer that in a moment. So Gamma is this is how I did it. So I went into my note application and I was like, hey, I have a presentation, that I want to use this particular. Yes, you can, Rachel. I said, hey, I have this presentation that I would like to create these slides with. Utilize the outline to create the slides. And Gamma generated all of the slides, and I just went back in and I edited each one of them to reflect how I want. So you could do something similar. Um, and I will show you that. That's a great question. So I'd like to fast forward. We're going to create a small video, 60-minute video for parents who are expecting. What should, we're going to ask it, create an outline to, for parents to know what to expect from their mental health postpartum. So it's going to generate your video outline. I like that it also gives you the time that you should spend in each one. And there we go. So here is this video outline. We're going to just pretend like this is perfect. This is exactly what we want. You can also, the next thing that you can do is say, hey, I'd like to turn this into a course. Give me a way that I can do that through AI. So it can give you the step by step. You can ask ChatGPT to expand each lesson into learning objectives, key takeaway, journaling prompts, record or repurpose the video or videos, depending on each section. Create your course material. You can use slides. You can use workbook or journal. You can use Audacity, which is what I use to record I've recorded affirmations on it. I also record my podcasts that I make on there. And then you would just find a place to host that, which is Google Drive is like the place that I tell people all the time is that I actually use Google a lot, but you can host the PDFs, the videos, the documents there, and really you just share the link in a Google document. You can also do Notion, and Teachable has a free plan. A lot of your course platforms have a free plan. But I think like the big thing that we don't always recognize is that sometimes we want to share the technology that we're using at the level that we're using it. And a lot of people like a PDF with all of the information on it would suffice. Like if they could just click through, that is just perfect until you're ready to build up into those other things. You can also automate the delivery with like an email system like Flowdesk or ConvertKit. Um, and then you can utilize social media to add engagement, visibility. Another thing that I've told people is that like I don't think we often recognize like how much of our videos are hosted in places like YouTube. So like for me, like a recording of my content might be me opening up my Zoom, recording it, and then hosting that video on YouTube unlisted, and then there goes your link. Um, I don't have this step by step in the outline. I have other step by steps, but I can go back and add it into the outline. So when you all go ahead to get access to it, you can have an opportunity to do that. But
Awesome. Shauna, real quick, just wanted to do a
sure.
time check. We've got about 15 minutes left. And I know we want to leave a little time for questions. So just gonna
Yes.
throw that
I
out.
will get back to, let me get back to the presentation and then we can we can wrap up and have space for questions. Okay. I need to share my screen. Okay. So when is it not a good time to use AI? So I think that in crisis, when someone is high risk, they may need hospitalization, or they might just be high risk for suicide. When they have things like acute trauma, then I think those are places where human judgment is irreplaceable. Again, I know that we will have clients who are going to use AI. I have clients who use AI. And a lot of times when they're using it, I'm also stating, like, okay, this is what you need to use. Like, this is what you need to look out for when you're utilizing the app. And this is when you may need to call for assistance or call for help. So a lot of times I am often like educating them about how do we do this safely? Like using it is at your own free will. Um, but how do you do this in a way that doesn't cause harm to yourself? Um, it's not good for deep connection. I know people are like, well, my AI does this or does that. But the therapeutic alliance and attunement is so important for outcomes. We know that it has an effect on our outcomes. Presence is our power, right? Having another human on the other side, whether it be via telehealth or in person, is so powerful for our clients. And again, it's just not very good for complex ethics. I think the big thing about the therapy field is like the providers understand our ethical codes because we have it's been drilled into us to think about it in a way that we think about our ethics and our morals first before we kind of act. And so I think that, again, technology is not going to do that for us, right? That's the human side of what we do. And our nuanced clinical decisions still require our human wisdom and accountability. So you're really supervising the tool doesn't supervise you. You still remain responsible for what goes into it. So this is your call to action when we're utilizing AI, right? You can learn to adapt. You can be leaders in it, and you can take others with you. So what I would like for you all to do is just identify one area where AI could help lighten your administrative load. Learn to explore one tool this month, and safely experiment with it. And then share with someone else about the tool that you're using, how it changes things for you, or how it affects the work that you do. And then focus on the freed up time that you have and what you can do with that free time, which is create more deep human connections. So, the choice is really up to you about how you want to use it. I think the most human thing we can do is adapt, evolve, and ensure that technology serves our deepest values, connection, and healing and care. It cannot be done without us. So your practical first step is identify one area where you can use AI to lighten your load, and then you can focus on that. And then now is our time for questions.
Okay, awesome. That was so good. Thank you for that.
You're
We'll
welcome.
bring my face back, and Robbie can certainly bring his back as well. And maybe we can field these questions collectively. All right, let's see. So I'll start up at the top to keep things fair. So Eric is saying, how do I reduce the confirmation bias created in my GPT? I'm worried it only tells me what I want to hear when asking for treatment assistance.
So what you put into it is what you're going to get out. When you say treatment assistance, can you give me like an example?
Oof. Well, if um if that person is still on, weigh in with an example if you could. If you could. I think I understand what they're saying though. Sometimes I know when I use AI, I feel like I'm leading, and so then it answers me in the way that I'm sort of directing it to, whether I realize it or not. So perhaps it's that. But I think this sort of goes back to what you said earlier on, which is take everything with a grain of salt and don't take everything as like the word. Like really dig in, do your research. It may not all be accurate, ask all the right questions. Um, Even use different AIs. I use Perplexity. I think you can also use ChatGPT. You can play them off of each other.
Hmm.
Um,
I agree with that completely. I also like going back to what I said before, like recently I used ChatGPT to like kind of formulate how I was going to use cognitive behavioral therapy. And a lot of it I had to be like, no, I don't want to do this. So like when I'm showing up to AI, I had to have the direction in my mind ahead of time.
mhm.
And I was really just doing that. I was leading it. So when it gave me things that I was like, I don't actually really like that. Or I think that's, or I'm not going to do that. I would just be like, no, I don't want that. I want this particular thing. The other thing that I think is really important is that it's a reminder that technology is not a replacement of our human connections. So often, like I myself have a coach. So many times, like I might formulate something on AI, but I'm formulating it based off of a template that my coach has given me. I might be formulating it off of like the direction that I want to go, and then I bring it back into my sessions and I'm like, what do you think about this? So I'm also not just using it alone. I'm using it in community with the other people that I work with. And that kind of like just helps broaden it. Gamma was something that my coach was like, give this a try because I was like, oh, I hate presentations. I don't hate presentations. I hate putting them together because it feels like it's so much and I have so much I want to say. And so it was like redirecting. And then once I gave the outline, it was like, okay, let's pull this out, let's put this in. So there was a lot of collaboration outside of the use of AI as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, Nicole is asking if we start using AI and update our informed consent that we're using it, do we need to wait to use it until our clients have signed the informed consent?
When you say like using it and the client signing the informed consent, is that for like in your note-taking system?
Well, all I got from Nicole was that question, so I don't know the context.
Yeah.
But I imagine it comes more from the disclosure standpoint of, do I need to let my clients know that I'm using AI for any part of our session interactions?
Okay, so when it comes to, I'll tell you, like most of my clients have introduced me to the fact that they were using AI. So sometimes I'm a little surprised, like, oh, you're doing that. But if it was something like I am utilizing AI for my notes, then that I want to bring attention to them. So I will put it in the informed consent, but I'm also going to talk about it with them in therapy. So when I brought in the AI note taker for simple practice, I went in and I was like, hey, there's this new system that I'm really interested in using. I would like to use it here. How do you feel about that? So I had them give me their verbal consent first. It also gave us a place to talk about if they felt comfortable with it or not. And I really posed it with the note taker. I really posed it as a, are you comfortable with me doing it this way? But
Mm,
they said no, it was fine, because there was other features to it that allowed for me to like use it still, just not that way. Um, so I would put it into the informed consent. I think that's the ethical thing to do, but I would also bring it to them in session as well to give them an idea of what's going on and how they're using it. You're going to have some clients who say that they're uncomfortable with it, and I that's understandable. But I've actually had a really good response to the clients who are like, how, like, yeah, that's fine, no big deal.
yeah, that's so interesting because honestly, I feel like so many folks wouldn't even think to ask or even know that, oh, my therapist is using AI to generate notes during this call.
Mhm.
And yet it's kind of going on in the background. And I just sort of see it as, well, technology, if it's making it easier for this person to help me on a move forward, great. But I can see that there are probably pitfalls associated with that. Um, Marianne has an interesting question. Do you need to have a paid, like I noticed you had a plus account with ChatGPT, I have a pro account. Do you need to have a paid AI account to establish that relationship over time where they get to know you and your brand? Or can that also happen with a free account?
That can also happen with a free account. The what happens with the free account of what I've learned is that you only have oh so much space. So eventually you will run out of space, and then it will tell you to like delete things from the memory in order to continue to use it. But yeah, you can do that on a free account. This presentation was made through Gamma. You can see at the corner. Um, and the reason why you see it on the corner is because I used the free account to do that.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, usually free accounts definitely include some branding.
Yeah.
Um, okay, cool. An anonymous attendee said, I love my EHR, but it does not use AI. Are there any external AI programs you're aware of that are trustworthy for creating notes that can be copied and pasted into my EHR rather than going through the hassle of changing EHRs?
So there are a couple that I've heard through the therapy grapevines. So the big one that I see people talking about is berries. I've never used it, so I don't know, but that's the bear. I think it's Berries AI. It's the one that I've seen other people use for like that's outside of the system that you have.
Okay, perfect. It looks like someone echoed that in the chat. Um, Let's see. Teresa is saying, do you have any other, beyond Gamma, are there any other tools you use that have really helped automate to scale, your workflows and like what's free versus not free?
Sure. So there is a free version of Descript. That's what I've used to, I'll type that in as I go. So there's a free version of Descript. That's what I use to, like any videos that I make, any audio that I've put together, I use that to enter into Descript. I like it because it creates captions, but I can edit through reading, which is helpful. So I can like hear all of the ums that I make or the weird pauses or anything like that, and then just pull them out. It saves so much time. I really like it. So I've used that. Currently I'm using Softer to create this app. There is a free version of Softer, and really, I just create Airtable and I link Softer to Airtable, and that's how it is generating the app for me. That little workflow is in the outline. So, in order to get access to the outline, if you would scan this code or go to that link on this page, it's going to ask you for feedback on how I did today. So if you just put in that feedback, you get to download um, the outline for today and all of the prompts that I shared. And the softer one, the app one is in there. So I like the app one because I think about us scaling our services as clinicians, and that's like a really great way of you doing that.
I love it. We are just almost right at 10 o'clock. This hour went by so quickly. I have to say, this was an incredible presentation. And I'm not a therapist, but I've learned some pretty good stuff from you today that I'm going to explore. Um, for those of you still with us, and the majority of you are, thank you for being with us this entire hour. Just a reminder, I will send out a link to this recording after we wrap. This is also going to be transformed into an ebook or a digital download. So because you registered for this event, you are going to be getting access to that in about a week or so. And you can download it and hang on to it so that you can refer back to it and all of Shauna's wisdom that she shared with us today. So a giant thank you to you, Shauna. This was incredible. A big thank you to Herd for co-hosting today. Thank you, Robbie, for joining. I encourage anyone to reach out to Shauna if you have more questions about this. Otherwise, please keep your eyes peeled for our next webinar. We love having all of our community join us for these. Thank you, Shauna. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.